Okay, guys, it's another beautiful day, and we'll continue with our learning on agile methodology. And we have been discussing the Scrum framework. We already know what Scrum is, the artifact that um, Scrum uses. We spoke about the sprint itself, the sprint planning, the sprint retrospective, the sprint review, the daily stand up, and
Ma'am,
yeah,
your screen is not visible, ma'am. You're sharing or not?
I'm not sharing yet. I'm just explaining what we have
Okay,
been.
ma'am. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I'll go into the slide now. Yeah. So okay, I was just giving a summary of what we have learned so far on the Scrum framework. So the last session we learned about the sprint planning and the product backlog refinement. Okay, where I showed you my product backlog in Jira and those user stories, what they entail, and I mentioned that okay, for the sprint planning we do estimate of work and then we refine the product backlog. Now we are going into sprint review and sprint retrospective. So these are like the basic things that you need to know about Scrum. So when we get practical, you will understand better. Okay, so for the sprint review and sprint retrospective, let's dive into it. So I'm welcoming you back to our Agile Exploration. Today we dive into the crucial practices of sprint review and retrospective. Imagine these two terms as two sides of the same coin, one celebrating completion and the other reflecting for better next step. So um, sprint review is the one that celebrates completion, all right. Then sprint retrospective is for reflecting on okay, how can we improve, where did we get it right, what did we do that is that we need improvement on, and what can we do better next time. So that is sprint retrospective. So through these practices you ensure transparency, you gather valuable insights and fuel continuous improvement within your agile project journey. So we say sprint review means you are showcasing what you have achieved. Okay. So what are what is this sprint review we've been talking about? So it is the time where the Scrum team and the stakeholders they gather together to review the increments. Remember we said that the goal of each sprint, like at the end of each sprint, there should be an increment, a potentially releasable increment. And what are these increments? We are talking about working functionality of a product must be released at the end of a sprint. So the way you measure your progress for that sprint, do you have a do you have an increment to show to the stakeholders? So the stakeholders come together with the Scrum team. So stakeholders, we are talking about the customers, the sponsor of the project, and every other person involved, and the Scrum team. I remember we said the Scrum team comprises of the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the development team. So these three set of people and the stakeholders, they come together to inspect, to review, and to adapt the increment that has been worked on during the course of the sprint. Okay. And remember we said that sprint is a short time frame where the Scrum team work on a product. So let's say it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks maximum. Then the sprint ends and another sprint begins immediately. There is usually no break between the end of one sprint and the other one. So as one sprint ends, the other one resumes. So but before the sprint ends, there are some things that must be done, that are the Scrum ceremonies, right? So the daily stand up is one of it. The same way we meet every day to discuss our progress, our challenges, and all. So you must meet daily. All right. Then the sprint planning, that we discussed in the last meeting. The sprint planning must be done. Then the sprint review, that is what I want to explain now. And then the sprint retrospective. So these are the things that happen at the end of the sprint. So we review our work, and then the Scrum team goes into retrospection. So let's talk about the sprint review. Are we all still following, please? Are we still following?
Which one?
Can you still hear me? Are you still following what I'm explaining?
Yes, yes. I told yes. Yes.
Okay, so let us proceed. So I was talking about the sprint review. So now the sprint review is held at the end of each sprint to showcase completed work. Like I said, you are showcasing your increments. So attendees include development team, the product owner, and stakeholders. Product owner demonstrates product increments. Team discusses successes, challenges, and lessons learned. Of course, the Scrum Master is also included in this. Then, typically time box to 4 hours for a 4-week sprint. So, if your sprint is 4 weeks, your sprint review should not be more than 4 hours. If your sprint is 2 weeks, it can be lesser. You can have 2 hours and so, depending on what you want to achieve. But it shouldn't be more than 4 hours for your sprint review. For the sprint planning, we said 8 hours maximum for the sprint planning if it is a 4-week sprint. Then for the daily scrum, it is 15 minutes. For the sprint retrospective, it is 3 hours. I hope we got the difference. Sprint planning 8 hours for a 4-week sprint. Sprint review. Sprint planning 8 hours. Sprint review 4 hours. Sprint retrospective is 3 hours. Then the daily scrum is 15 minutes. Okay, so we are saying that the sprint review is when everyone comes together and we check what we have done, we review it, we give feedback, we get feedback from these end users and the stakeholders, and the development team, the entire scrum team goes back to make adjustment on the work where necessary. Okay, so think of the sprint review as your victory lap, celebrating the increment of value delivered. The product owner takes center stage, showcasing the completed user stories and functionality. Remember our user stories from Jira? Yeah, so the team shares their experiences, highlighting achievements, roadblocks, and key takeaways. This collaborative review fosters transparency, gathers stakeholder feedback, and ensures the product aligns with evolving needs. So the purpose of this sprint review is to get feedback, to foster transparency. Remember the last session we said transparency is very, very key to Scrum. Whatever you do in Scrum, you must be transparent. So for this sprint review, it is one way to show transparency when you are using the Scrum framework, because everybody gets to see what you've been working on, where you are currently, what needs to be adjusted, and you take that feedback and work on it. So that is what sprint review is about. Remember the key things to take note of. Sprint review comprises of stakeholders, the Scrum team. And the Scrum team, we have the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the development team, all coming together to inspect their work, the work that has been done in the course of the sprint. All right. Please, do we understand?
Yeah, Christina, is there any aid for the meeting, or do we need to do the meeting along with the manager?
You cannot do the meeting alone. If I got your question right, it has to be with the stakeholders, the development team, the product owner, the Scrum Master, everybody coming together to inspect your work.
So overall involved in the project, same project, they are going to discuss in this meeting.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
like developer, test engineers, like that, who are all doing the same project, exact project. Those will come into one meeting and they will discuss about that task, what they are doing, right?
Yes, yes. The tester,
Okay, here
the
you mentioned,
developer,
yeah,
everybody coming together to review what has been done.
okay.
Yes.
In point number 5 in sprint review, you mentioned that the time boxed to 4 hours for a 4 week points. That means for 1 week, 1 hour is considered, or
Yeah,
4 hours per week.
the lesser the sprint duration, the lesser time is required for your sprint review. And same applies for the sprint planning. Yeah.
Can we take more timings for this if the meeting going to be extended means?
It shouldn't exceed this amount of hours, as that is what is
Okay.
prescribed by the Scrum Guide.
Yeah, okay. But we can do the lesser also, but we
Yes.
don't want to extend this one, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. So let us proceed. So there are some questions that you ask during the sprint review. So we are asking ourselves, did we meet the sprint goal? All right. We have what we call product goal. We have what we call sprint goal. So from those user stories on Jira, we call it product backlog items, right? So we have our overall product goal, like, okay, this product, this is the goal for it. Then by the time the sprint is starting, we are taking some of these user stories, not all of it, some that we are going to work on in the first sprint, for example. So the few ones that were selected for the sprint, let's say sprint 1, we also have a goal for that sprint. For those items that were selected, we have a goal. So how did we meet this goal for the sprint? So the entire sprint goal is still in alignment with the product backlog items. It's still in alignment with the product goal. Do you understand? So did we meet the sprint goal? Okay. What user stories were completed? What challenges did we encounter? What feedback do we have for the product owner? What can we learn for the next sprint? So these are some of the questions that should be asked during the sprint review. Depending on your circumstances, the questions may vary, but the idea is to inspect and adapt our increments. So these guiding questions stir the sprint review discussion. Evaluating the sprint goal. Evaluating the sprint goal achievements helps assess progress. So reviewing completed user stories provides tangible results. Discussing challenges identifies potential roadblocks to address in future sprints. So gathering feedback from stakeholders ensures alignment with priorities, and reflecting on lessons learned fuels continuous improvement, making your team stronger with each iteration. So we say iteration. Iteration means you have gotten the feedback from the stakeholders and you have made the necessary adjustments on your product, on your increment. So all these ceremonies in Scrum, the sprint review and all of that is geared towards making you have a valuable delivery to your end user, to your customer. Okay. Value, the purpose is value, creation of value. Because if you don't get this feedback, you might think you have done excellent work, but by the time it gets to the hand of the end user, they are seeing the loopholes. So these feedbacks are very, very necessary for creating a product that is of good value. Okay, so let's proceed. There are more questions we could ask during the sprint review. Was the increment done? So we have something we call definition of done in Scrum. Definition of done. So there are some requirements that must be met before we can say, okay, this particular functionality is done. That is our definition of done. Okay, we are done working on this. Before you can create something and say, oh, I am done with it, there are some acceptance criteria. There are some things that must be ticked. They must have passed some checklist. So that is your definition of done. So we are asking ourselves, this increment that we have worked on in the course of this sprint, was it done? Was there any failure to bring any functional elements? So the increments fulfill the sprint goal and or contribute to the overall product goal. Did our increment fulfill the sprint goal or contribute to the overall product goal? Remember I said we have two goals, the product goal and the sprint goal. So the product goal is the overall. The sprint goal, because sprints are in shorter time frame, your sprint is also working towards achieving the product goal. So for that sprint, you have your sprint goal. Everything must be in sync with the product goal. So did this increment we have produced for sprint 1, did it fulfill the sprint goal or did it contribute to the overall product goal? So we also ask, what are the influences as a result of this review on the next increment? Then what are the current market conditions and how did they influence the decisions during the iteration? How has the metrics of the product evolved over time? So these are some of the questions that should be asked during the sprint review. Okay. So let's move on to the sprint retrospective. So sprint retrospective is majorly done by the Scrum team. The stakeholders are not involved. It's for the Scrum team, okay? So let's see. The sprint retrospective is held after the sprint review to discuss process and improvements. Let me check on your mood. Are you still following? Are we still following? Let me check on us.
Nice.
Okay. So we can proceed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I was saying that the sprint retrospective is held after the sprint review to discuss process and improvement. It focuses on what went well, what could be improved, and next step. And this meeting is just for the development team, for the Scrum team rather. So we are inspecting ourselves. Our stakeholders are not here. It's in-house, it's within us. What did we do well? What can be improved on? All right, we take note of those things and we provide solution. What are the challenges we faced in the course of this sprint? And we evaluate our process, the process we would use in working, what can be improved. And this is the time we can also make changes to our definition of done. Remember I said that definition of done is like a checklist, a requirement that must be met before you can say, okay, this particular feature, we have completed it. So we can make adjustments to our definition of done. As the team matures, our definition of done also is expected to improve, mature, right? So this sprint retrospective focuses on what went well, what could be improved, and what is the next step. It is totally different from the sprint review. Sprint review, the stakeholders are involved. Sprint retrospective, it is in-house for the Scrum team. So sprint retrospective, if you check the dictionary meaning, it's like reflecting, inspecting yourself, like, okay, what went well, what could have been done better, that kind of thing. So sprint retrospective uses techniques like start, stop, continue, or sail boat. You get to learn all of this in the practical session. So sprint retrospective also generates actionable items for the next sprint. So it's typically time boxed to 3 hours for a 4-week sprint. So it is the shortest ceremony in Scrum, aside from the daily stand-up. So the sprint retrospective is expected to be 3 hours or lesser, depending on the duration of your sprint. Okay, so imagine the sprint retrospective as a pit stop to refuel and adjust your course. Move beyond reviewing accomplishments. During sprint review, we review our accomplishments. We check, okay, how far have we gone, our progress. But for the sprint retrospective, we are moving beyond that and we are delving deeper into our processes. What worked well? What could be optimized? Engaging techniques like start, stop, continue, or sailboat will spark open discussions and honest feedback. By identifying areas for improvement and generating actionable items, you ensure your next sprint is even more efficient and effective. And on the right side of my slide, I wrote some tips. We have to keep it simple. We have to incorporate novelty, and we have to stay focused during the sprint review, make it action oriented, and bring in outside perspective. We want to hear from everyone. What do you think? What did we do well? What can we improve on? So we are evaluating our processes. We are checking ourselves, right, in the absence of the stakeholders. All right, let's continue. So what are the benefits of the sprint review and the retrospective? Number one, it fosters transparency and collaboration. It aligns stakeholders and gather valuable feedback. It identifies and addresses potential roadblocks early. Continuously improve processes and team performance. So it also increases project predictability and success rate. Because really, unlike the waterfall methodology, right, I explained that in waterfall, you have to complete one step before you start the second step. And there's a major project launch date. By the time you are done, you launch your project. Then that is when you now start receiving feedback from the general public on how well or how bad your product is performing. All of this could have been captured early if you were using the agile methodology. Because these little ceremonies, the sprint review, the sprint retrospective, they help us catch challenges, loopholes early, because we are working with shorter time frame and you can get feedback quickly and you are making adjustments on your product on the go. So that is one advantage of agile over waterfall. All right. So these practices are not just formalities, they are powerful tools for growth. By fostering transparency and collaboration, you gain valuable insights and build trust. Stakeholder alignment and early feedback ensure you are on the right track. Proactive problem solving through the retrospective minimizes future roadblocks, and ultimately continuous improvement leads to stronger processes, a more efficient team, and a higher chance of project success. Actually. Yeah. So, in conclusion, you have explored two crucial practices that fuel agile growth. By regularly inspecting your progress and adapting your approach, you empower your team to deliver value iteratively and thrive in a dynamic environment. Remember, agile is not a fixed set of rules, but a mindset of continuous learning and improvement. Embrace open communication, experimentation, and adaptability to unlock the full potential of agile and ensure your project journey leads to success and beyond. So before I come to the end of this, I'm going to take questions from you, but I also want to ask you a question. What is the difference between the sprint review and the sprint retrospective? I'll be calling on somebody. Let's check. How many people are still active? So Macedon, can you kindly tell us what you understand by the sprint review and the sprint retrospective? What are the differences?
In Jira, how to process the sprint is useful to know in Jira Spring. It's useful for me and nice presentation also, Cristiano. Thank you.
No, I'm not satisfied with that response. I'll come back to you. Okay? I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Jivan, please tell us, what do you understand by sprint review and sprint retrospective? Jivan, are you there?
Yes, Christina. Could you please repeat the question?
So the question,
Due to network issue, I didn't hear properly.
okay, the question is, what do you understand by sprint review, like I have explained, and sprint retrospective? What are the differences?
It's a simple question. Even before we starting also, even in Sir also doing the sprint meeting, we can take that as an example. And before starting this like stand-up meeting also, we are doing the sprint meeting for 15 minutes. For the basic itself, we are doing 15 minutes. Means for the upcoming project, if we work as a team, means we are going to take at least 1.5 hour to explain regarding with the UI team, development team, test team. If they will share their opinion about their project, means it's going to take 1.5 hour. So it will be helpful to achieve the project easily. Like we can build the good project and good software as well. It will going to help Christina.
Okay. You just explained the sprint review. How about the sprint retrospective?
Sorry, sprint
Retrospective.
it is pretty sorry, I didn't get you.
Okay, I'll explain again. I said, what is the difference between the sprint review and the sprint retrospective?
Sprint is
Afrin, you want to talk?
Sorry.
Yeah, sprint retrospective is a phrase that could be interpreted in a few different ways, like depending on the context. It might mean like run quickly or obstacles we can solve over there. Like I know that, but I don't know how to tell that one.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Pavitra.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us.
Sprint retrospective means we can express in ideas, thoughts, and experience in that sprint perspective. It is very useful in DevOps and testing, ma'am.
Then how about the sprint review?
Sprint review.
Okay, let me call on another person. Kende.
Yeah. So I would say sprint review is basically more about being able to deliver like the outcome. And why the retrospective is basically like the processes it entails and having a good teamwork and everyone can flow together.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. The sprint review is between the stakeholders and the entire Scrum team, right? So they come together and inspect the work that has been done in the course of the sprint. Then for the sprint retrospective, it is mainly for the Scrum team. So they inspect the processes they used in working on that increment on the software or whatever they're developing, they're working on. So we ask ourselves, what did we do well? What can we improve on? Because this is in-house within the Scrum team. But for the sprint review, we have an increment to show to the stakeholders, okay, this is how far we have gone, this is the progress we have made, we are celebrating our achievements, and we are getting feedback from the stakeholders. All right, that is the difference basically. So I would encourage us to please read about these things at our free time, because you are going to be working. Yes, Jivan?
Yeah, Christina, can we say like this also, like sprint irrespective is not an like a standard agile or scrum term, so it may not have widely recognized meaning in the concept of project management methodology like scrum. And when it comes to sprint review, in the well-defined event in the scrum framework, it is a meeting at the end of the sprint where the scrum team and stakeholders review what was accomplished during the sprint. And this in the sprint review also it includes the discussing the completed work and demonstrating the functionality and gathering the feedback.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the sprint review, you gather feedback and you work on your project. You iterate, you make iterations, and you have a product that has better value. All right. Okay, they are telling me my call ends in 15 minutes. Okay. All right, sir, we are done with this session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I think I don't have anything